All right, let's talk about one of the weirdest, but also one of the most common things our bodies do: sneezing when you step into a bright light. It might just seem like a funny little quirk, but trust me, the science behind it is pretty fascinating.
You know the feeling, right? You walk outside on a bright day, maybe stepping out of a dark movie theater, your eyes squint, and then, out of nowhere, ah! If that sounds familiar to you, you are definitely not the only one.
So just how big is this club of sun sneezers? Well, get this. Current estimates figure that somewhere between 18 and 35% of all people on Earth have this exact same reflex.
That's right. That means there's a good chance that more than a third of the people you know are fellow sun sneezers. So if this is you, welcome to the club. It's a big one.
Okay, so what in the world is going on here? I mean, light hits your eyes, not your nose. So why the big nasal explosion? Let's dive in and unravel this sun sneeze mystery. The official fancy name for this is the Photic Sneeze Reflex. Photic just means light. And the most important word here is uncontrollable. It's a pure reflex, not an allergy. It's your body just automatically reacting to a sudden change in brightness.
Now here's my absolute favorite part. The scientists who study this clearly have a great sense of humor because they gave it a nickname, and it is just perfect. You are not going to forget this one. It's what's known as a backronym, where you have the word you want first, and then you work backward to make the letters fit. And in this case, the word they picked couldn't be more on the nose.
Are you ready for it? They call it ACHO Syndrome. I'm not kidding. It stands for autosomal dominant compelling helio-ophthalmic outburst. That is a mouthful, so let's break it down. Autosomal dominant just means it's genetic. Compelling means you can't stop it. And helio-ophthalmic, that's just a super nerdy way of saying sun eye. It is truly the perfect name.
And that autosomal dominant part is really key. It means it's a strong genetic trait. If even just one of your parents has the gene for it, you have a 50-50 chance of inheriting it. It's like a coin flip for every child. So if you're a sun sneezer, take a look at your parents. Odds are one of them is too.
And the genetics get even more specific. One study looked into who actually has this, and the results were kind of surprising. In their particular group, a huge 94% of the sun sneezers were Caucasian, and about 2/3 of them were female. We don't really know why yet, but it's clear this little quirk isn't spread out evenly across the population.
All right, so it's genetic and it has an amazing name, but that leaves the biggest question of all. Why? What is physically happening inside our brain that connects our eyeballs to our noses like this?
And here's the kicker. The honest-to-goodness answer is we're still not 100% sure. Isn't that wild? For something so incredibly common, the exact wiring is still a bit of a scientific puzzle. But we do have some really solid theories.
So, a regular sneeze happens because something like dust or pollen irritates your nose. That irritation sends a signal up a big nerve called the trigeminal nerve, and your brain says, sneeze. But a photic sneeze starts in your eye with your optic nerve. The signal for, hey, it's really bright out, somehow gets its wires crossed and jumps over to that same sneezing pathway.
So how does that happen? Well, the leading theory is all about proximity. The nerve for your vision and the nerve for sneezing, the trigeminal nerve, run right next to each other in your brain. So when a massive, sudden signal comes blazing down the optic nerve, like from bright sunlight, it's so strong that it can kind of leak or spill over and accidentally trigger its neighbor. Think of it like faulty wiring in your brain's switchboard.
Now, for most of us, this is just a funny quirk. But what if that uncontrollable reflex happened at exactly the wrong time? It turns out this can be more than just an annoyance. It can be a genuine safety concern.
Just imagine for a second. You're a fighter pilot pulling Gs, making split-second decisions. You suddenly fly out from behind a thick cloud into blinding direct sunlight. An uncontrollable fit of sneezes in that moment could be absolutely catastrophic.
And I'm not just making that up. That is the actual title of a real study published in a journal called Military Medicine back in 1993. The military takes this seriously because for a pilot, a split second of blindness and loss of control from a sneeze can be the difference between life and death.
And it's not just pilots. Think about driving your car and coming out of a long, dark tunnel, or a surgeon performing incredibly delicate eye surgery, even just sitting in the dentist chair with that bright light shining in your face. In any of those situations, an unexpected, powerful sneeze is the last thing you want.
What's really incredible to me is that this isn't some new discovery. People have been noticing this and scratching their heads about it for literally centuries. This is an ancient puzzle.
Way, way back in 350 BCE, the philosopher Aristotle was writing about it. He figured the sun's heat made your nose moist, and you had to sneeze to get the sweat out. Not quite, but a good guess. Then in the 17th century, the scientist Francis Bacon did a simple experiment. He walked into the sun with his eyes closed. No sneeze. He correctly figured out the eyes had to be the trigger. But it took all the way until 1964 for a doctor to finally give it its modern name and propose that same crossed wires theory we still use today.
So, if you're a sun sneezer, what can you do? Well, the solutions are pretty simple. The most obvious is prevention. Just wear sunglasses or a hat. But here's a cool trick. If you feel that sneeze coming on, try pressing firmly on your philtrum, that little groove right between your nose and your upper lip. For many people, that pressure can actually short-circuit the sneeze reflex.
So in the end, the sun sneeze is all of these things at once. It's a harmless glitch for most of us, a potential danger for some, and ultimately, a fascinating clue to the complex wiring of our own bodies, passed down through our families for thousands of years. So the next time you step into the sun and feel that familiar tingle, you'll know exactly what's going on.